of women, that the percentage is very low and they intend to correct that. But my question, Chair, for now is, sorry, Chair, is COVID-19 has impacted on all departments. Now, with the impact of COVID-19 on departments, and I want to know how has it impacted on all on the COVID-19? How has it impacting on the preparations for the census 2021? And also, Chair, I want to also check on the two staff members that have left the department in the fourth quarter. I just want to check, did Stats SA conduct an exit interview? If yes, what are their reasons for resignation? I know sometimes they are having reasons of maybe going for greener pastures and all of that. And the other one is what kind of method will be used to recruit matters to more practically by attracting suitable candidates in rural areas. During this recruitment process for census, is there any percentage committed to appoint more young people in this project? Because currently our issue is looking at young people that are unemployed. I just want to know that one. I thank you, Chair.
Nkosi Cebekulu. Nkosi Cebekulu.
SA conduct an exit interview. If yes, what are their reasons for
Honorable Cebekulu has connection problems.
They are having reasons of maybe going for greener pastures and all of that.
We have just lost him now completely.
Is what kind of method?
Is there any other member that wants to make a contribution?
Matters to more practically by attracting suitable candidates in rural areas. During this recruitment process for census, is there any
other member
committed to appoint
before we move
more
on?
young people in this process?
No, Chairperson.
Nothing, okay. And it seems we have lost Honorable Cebekulu. Therefore, I will now. Yeah, I can see Honorable Cebekulu has plighted a question there. The Stats SA must note that question from Honorable Cebekulu. Can I allow now the Stats SA to respond to questions raised by Honorable Member?
Thank you, Chairperson. We are trying to pick up the question raised by Honorable Cebekulu, but we are not able to see it this side yet. So if Chair, at the end of me responding to these questions, can just assist us. But firstly, I want to take Honorable Clark's question, the main reasons that causes high staff turnover, as well as the question that was raised by Honorable Qibi. Firstly is that our staff members are leaving because of greener pastures. We haven't been able to hire a single staff member since October 2016. That is already more than 3 years. And in about 1,000 days, or slightly more than that, staff members tend to want to redefine themselves in line with their careers. And this is well researched throughout the world. And when we don't offer them an opportunity for growth, when they are offered a lot more opportunities and with better salaries and everything, they leave. Some of them is retirement, Chairperson. And as they retire, we can't replace, and that results back in our vacancy rate going higher and higher because we can't replace. It's only now that we will start replacing. I think there is a bit of noise. One of us has their mic on, Chairperson. I hope it's not disrupting others. But back to the questions. Back to the questions again. In terms of the platforms we are going to use, and that's a question by Honorable Clark. In terms of the platforms that we are going to use, for our surveys, we have already started. And one of the things that we would expect from the side of Parliament is from time to time to make a call, and as and when Parliament engages with the portfolio committee members engage with your constituencies, is to make a call that they must give Stats SA a chance when we call them, because we rely now on making telephone calls. Look at the quarterly labor force survey. Our team sits with the smartphones or tablets, and they capture the information while they are calling members of the public. And these are long questionnaires, and sometimes members of the public get frustrated having to stay longer on the phone. But that's the only way we can do under the current environment. In terms of implications, financial implications, every investment in a new technological direction does cost a bit of money at the beginning. So first injection, we will remember, all of us, when cell phones arrived, Chairperson, they were very expensive. So first investment in technology is very expensive. But over time, as you diversify your ability to use and your benefits, actually the cost of a cell phone now is not even was that sitting at 14,000. Very few would cost you that. They even cost you R1. What costs more is data. So it's the same with this one. We would expect that there will be cost implications in driving our technology. And as we do so in downstream years, we will see a lot of benefits. Honorable Mutsipe raises the issue of funds allocated and in relation to what are the reasons that we haven't seen movement in terms of staff employment when funds have been allocated, and we have raised it, is because we are reporting on Q4, and Q4 an environment through which we were not allowed to hire anybody. So up until the end of Q4, we were not allowed to hire anybody. But of course, this discussion will come again when we report on this quarter, that we are starting to align ourselves in relation to being able to hire staff members for starting from the first quarter of 2020-2021. We were just put on hold because of the lockdown conditions for COVID-19, which made it very difficult to operate or to access our places of work, and working from home on some of these areas was not as easy as we had hoped for. But let us look at mortality in the COVID-19 environment. Honorable Mutsipe wants to know if Stats SA is able to provide province by province, gender broken as well as broken down, as well as youth broken down. We don't collect this information. These are administrative records sitting with the Department of Health. And it's the same with the number of children who report for duty at school on a particular day. Those are administrative records. But obviously, at some stage, when we do collections, they will be rehabilitated to form part of the official statistics. So it's the same for food parcels. We do collect at household level. So when we go out to households to want to know what they have received, they will report back to us, because that's a better measure than going to a municipality or a province to ask them how many food parcels they have distributed, because they will always look at how much they wanted to distribute and give us that number. Members of the public are better placed to inform us at the appropriate time when we reach them. But we will be releasing, as usual, the causes of death later. And these causes of death are based on us receiving records from Home Affairs, the BI 1663, as well as the microfilms, and look at what causes death in the country. It may be that COVID-19 at the time is not notifiable as, because people may die of a respiratory failure or of a cerebrovascular accidents or something relating to that, not necessarily. So when we report, we will certainly look at what the indications are. But as of now, the data sits with the Department of Health, and of course, the food parcels sit with different key players, churches, and municipalities, and we are not able to have that information. Honorable Schreiber, we haven't received a letter from the Department of National Treasury in relation to what our budget cuts are. And we would like to wait until we receive formal communication. Engagements have been there in terms of what they are saying. Would you want to seed this money? And we say, but if we seed this money, we won't be able to do the following. If we seed this money, we won't be able to do the following. They have informed us, though, that they might take a measure step in terms of having to cut from every government department as we respond to the COVID-19 environment. But that information we will know once they have formally communicated with us, which we expect to be in the next few days. Honorable Kibi, I have already spoken on the issue of what makes our staff members leave. But there are 2 points that I still need to deal with. The impact of COVID-19 on Census 22. Chair and honorable members, that I was asked this question by the media in relation to our work as, let's say, how we are impacted. And my response was as follows, which I would want to put across as COVID-19 is not only affecting one department or one section of our society. COVID-19 is affecting the entire world. And as it affects the entire world, it is the coronavirus is actually defining the space within which we must respond as nations of the world. And as we do so, we define ourselves within the confines of how it behaves in the public space. And as such, Chairperson, every aspect of life has been impacted. Every facet of life in every corner in the world has been impacted. So Stats SA is not an exception. A function of statistics, not only in South Africa, all over the world is not an exception. We will be affected like any other facet of life that is there. And in this regard, we have delayed the release of the CPI. The May CPI will release it together with the GDP. And of course, not the GDP, with the June CPI. And of course, we are looking at our GDP now for the first quarter of 2019 and what effects that may have in terms of the schedule of release. So we are not looking at that, but almost all our products, Chairperson, have been impacted. Our quarterly labor force survey, which we used to collect face-to-face, is not done face-to-face now. So is the census. Census 2021 is no exception. If you have a pandemic that is wreaking havoc across the world, Chairperson, maybe havoc is a strong word for lack of a better one, but which is actually redefining the way we live on a daily basis. Census is no exception. And we are looking, other than our traditional methods of collection and other than the envisaged way of collection, we are looking at self-enumeration as one of those methods. The last point, Chairperson, is methods of recruitment, especially for far-flung areas. What we do, Chairperson, whenever we recruit for census activities or our surveys, we send out adverts to newspapers. We put adverts in our regional offices, and we have a regional office congruent to every district we have in the country. But beyond that, we send out a lot of flyers going out to Tusong centers and all facilities that are there where people must receive information. But when we recruit, we always insist on recruiting people closer to their to the area where we are working. So the geographic, when they apply, they must load the information of where they are based, and when they apply online, where they are applying from, they can link it to a geographic point where they are, so that when we deal with our sample surveys, we can actually appoint people from nearer or exactly where our areas are sampled. There are times when you have one field worker having to go to three sampled enumeration areas, or 4 or 5 or 6. Then, but they must come from nearer to those areas. And in the census in particular, Chairperson and honorable members, we want to get people coming from those communities, so that these people are not only coming from there, but they are known in the communities, so that members of the public can participate better, especially in an environment where trust amongst members of the public in some sections of our society is not strong. So when it's someone they know, it strengthens our bid for reach to our community members in the line of data collection and official statistical practice. Chairperson and honorable members, I believe I've responded to all questions that were raised. But a matter that was not raised, which I didn't speak to, is the issue of legislative reform, which we have taken it up with the Office of the Deputy President as leader of government business. So it's properly logged in there. And next week, we will be discussing it with the government governance and administration cluster for it to go through the ministerial cluster for processes of taking it through parliament from the side of government leadership. Chairperson, let me thank you for this opportunity that you have given us as Stats SA. Chairperson, you are muted. We can't hear you. Unmute yourself.
Mastole, can you read out the question from Honorable Tsebe Kulu? He has posted his question.
Okay. The question reads as follows, Chair. Has ever ventured into compiling the number of hackers and employees who lost their jobs when restitution and restoration of productive farms lying swallowed these days? It's along those lines, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. SG, can you respond to that question from Honorable Tsebe Kulu?
Certainly, Chairperson. We measure from the side of outcomes. Let us look at this example. The budgets that are used in the space of agriculture or in the farming environment are inputs, and the outputs are the products that come from those farming communities. The outcomes are in relation to the number of people who access or will receive food from those facilities, but also the number of people who get affected by policies that are being implemented in that space and the impact that may occur in their life. So we measure at the level of outcomes. Now, what we do is every quarter we collect the quarterly labor force survey, and we are able to let the public know how many jobs have been lost from the agriculture, as how many jobs have been gained. Since issues of restitution, Chairperson, as well as issues of movements in the farming community occur at different times, it's not like a once-off issue like national elections, where we would say in 2019, in August, there were issues of restitution and movements and people losing jobs. It keeps on happening every day. So we measure it, we don't measure it specifically, but we measure issues of employment and unemployment. And when you look at agriculture, you do pick up sometimes where there are job losses, but we are not able to delineate them specifically in relation to restitution, because it's a ballpark figure that occurs in the space of agriculture. One of the things that we are also looking is in our classification, industrial classification, we are now using about 10 sectors. When we look at going forward, implementing some of our improvements, we will unpack other areas where we will go to a level of about 23 classifications. Still, Chairperson, even when we do so, it won't be enough to hold in specifically on issues like restitution as policy imperatives, but job losses and gains we will continue to measure from quarter to quarter, including in the agricultural sector. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you. DM, we are now going to receive a presentation from Brand SA. Any introductory remarks from you, DM?
Chairperson?
Hello?
Chairperson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Just before we go on to the next presentation, you know, we've been told by the SG that if we can help as public reps to inform the community that when they do their surveys that the community should be responsive and also be patient with callers from Stats SA. My suggestion is that he actually sends us a program of when they're doing what areas, because, you know, as public reps, we possibly can assist with that. Because I just take my constituency, for instance, just one ward, I've got about 27. So, you know, if he could send us a program of when they're going to do it, as to when and where they're going to do it, we could put a notice, you know, we could put a notice on those databases.
Okay. I think the SG has taken note of that. DM, any introductory remarks?
We are taking note of that.
Okay. DM, any introductory remarks before
No.
SA presents?
Yes, the apology is that the chairperson will not be the one presenting, Mr. Ndito Bias. The acting CEO, Ms. Tulisile Manzini, will do the presentation. She can start, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Manzini?
Thank you. Yes, I'm here, Chair. Thank you very much. Muted. Greetings to the Chair and the committee members, and greetings to you, Deputy Minister, my colleagues. I also have my colleagues accompanying me to this presentation, which is the EXCO members. They will also assist me with the presentation that is on the screen. We will be following that particular presentation. But maybe before I start with the presentation, I would like to say that this is quarter 4, when the world, as we know, it changed a lot, and it affected us a lot, especially also on Brand South Africa, because we are supposed to be promoting this brand. And when COVID-19 happened, we had to change our strategy on how we do things. We find ourselves in extremely challenging times. And now more than ever, our work will demand that increase our efforts through interventions with the social purpose to re-energize our citizens and rebuild what has been lost through this time. As a preamble to my presentation, to say that this quarter was a true test of our resolve as a nation. We were fortunate to have delivered on some of our international commitments through the webinars that we have used. This included an opportunity to profile and position South Africa at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, and at the Mining in Gaba in Cape Town. All these were accounted for in the quarter that was. We were also there when the President Ramaphosa took over the baton as the UN chair in Addis Ababa. And domestically, our marketing and communication interventions focused on Play Your Part programs to drive active citizenship in the provinces, as well as the constitutional awareness program as we commemorated Human Rights Day. We also, as Brand South Africa, we also welcome our Miss Universe back home as she returned to her home country for the first time since winning the crown. And she, amongst others, has a true advocate in flying the South African flag very high. When COVID-19 hit our shores, several activities had to be postponed or cancelled. And those are some of the things that I will be touching on as I give this particular presentation. We also had to respond and adapt to the new environment and the new way of working through a campaign called Prepare, Protect, Prosper. This was also adopted by the presidency as the messaging tool for the AU chairship. So Brand South Africa was behind that. This allowed us to extend the campaign throughout the continent. As the country gradually moves out of lockdown, our efforts will need to be strengthened even more to fight the spread of the pandemic and forge ahead in fighting the social ill of violence against women and children. As a country, we have a duty to protect them. We all have to play our part and dig deep into our spirit of Ubuntu and resilience to find ways to end this particular scourge. Because as we know about what our role is as Brand South Africa, it does affect us when this type of things happen. It does affect the nation brand. So I thought I needed to start with that to say our job or our work as Brand South Africa, it's becoming even more difficult because how do you sell the country? How do you talk to investors to come and invest in South Africa at this particular time when this is happening? So it becomes very difficult. Hence, we needed to change our strategy because this is not business as usual. But we will forever be grateful to have the support of the minister and the deputy minister and also the board that is assisting us and giving us the direction. And we have continued through webinars. We have been very visible. We have had webinars because we are unable to have a physical contact because our work required us to have physical contact. And also we were visible through radio, television, very visible. And also because one of our stakeholders, because we work with government, business society, and it's government, civil society and business, and also our faith-based organization. One of the things that I can just brag about that we have just did recently, it was the visit by them that was facilitated by Brand South Africa. We by the assembly.
You are breaking up, Mrs. Manzi.
Back to God.
You are breaking up now. We have lost you, Mrs. Manzi.
1.4 million to the COVID-19, but specifically 500,000 to the national fund. So that was also done through Brand South Africa. We will move to the next. Okay. Next.
Have we lost you, Tulisile?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you, but I can hear you now.
Oh, thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Can we go to the previous slide, Acting CFO? The table of content.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Our presentation will cover the areas that the Q4 performance overview, the Q4 targets not achieved, the performance against Q4 targets, human resources, finance, and the closing remarks and questions. It is a very, very short presentation. The next slide, CFO. Proceed, please. Thank you. For this particular quarter, we were able to achieve 80% of our targets. We're not able to achieve 80%, and I will be able to elaborate as we move to the next slide. Please proceed, CFO. The targets that we have for administration, we achieved 3 of 4. Brand marketing and reputation, 13 of 16. Program 3 stakeholder, 4 of 5. And the total targets that we have for the quarter is 25. And we managed to achieve 20, so 5 not achieved. The targets that were not achieved, slide 7. On slide 7, the presentation that is there, it shows that our target is 90% overall organizational performance, but the actual performance was 80% overall organizational performance rating, like the previous slides, like I have already said. And most of the Q4 targets were not achieved due to the restrictive measures put in place by government to curb the spread of COVID-19. But Deputy Minister, in her opening statement, mentioned that we should not be hiding behind COVID-19. We need to start to find ways and means of making sure that we achieve these targets. That is what we are exactly doing, to make sure that we are able to adjust to the new way of working and achieve the targets. And with the University of Ghana Business School, that was cancelled because of COVID-19. We were supposed to have 2 nation brand alignment training. The training couldn't happen because the nature of the training needed physical contact, and that did not happen because of COVID-19. We were also supposed to have, these are the targets we did not achieve, the 5 targets. We were supposed to have a stakeholder-led workshop, and this was not executed in Q4 because the stakeholder-led workshop that was supposed to happen in Gauteng could not be delivered due to the restrictive measures put in place by government to curb the spread of COVID-19. And also, what we could not achieve is the NBI business roundtable, and also the corporate PYP collaboration with the Bank, Harmony Gold and Free State Department of Education, collaboration with MTN at WEF Davos, because the planned that we were able to achieve, but what we could not achieve because we're supposed to have 4, but we're able to achieve, the 3 I've mentioned. It's 1 that we did not achieve is the activity we're supposed to do with the Mango Airline because of the measures that were put in place. Next slide, Acting CFO. Next slide, slide 9. Slide 9. Slide 9.
Maybe
can you hear me, Chairperson? Okay, let me proceed. Oh, okay, I'm going to proceed, Chairperson, because it looks like the person controlling the presentation is not moving with me. On the performance against the Q4, the quarterly we had for the we are still waiting for the unqualified audit opinion on performance information. We were supposed to have the unqualified audit opinion, and that has not happened because we just met with the Auditor General, and the Auditor General, they are only going to be starting with auditing us now in Q. They will be doing that now after July because the COVID-19 also disturbed their plans. But I'm happy to report back that in terms of the quarterly satisfactory internal audit, our internal audit report by internal audit, and that we have internal controls. We received that particular report and we were told that we are actually, it was satisfactory, so that particular target was met. On the organizational performance rating, that target was not met in terms of the 90%, but it was met. We had 80%, like I have said. On the slide 10, on this particular quarter, the annual target that we had put in place for supporting supporting strategic goal 2, which is the proactive and coordinated reputation management of the nation brand. The annual target was we were supposed to have 12 research reports on performance of the nation brand. That target was met. We had we were supposed for Q4 to have 4 analysis report. We had those reports and the target was met. We also were supposed to have 1 SA Inc. research analysis. That particular target was not met. Because the planned SA Inc. engagement is the one that I spoke about that we were supposed to have in Cuba, in Ghana. And then we're supposed to have 1 quarterly domestic, we were supposed to have 1 quarterly domestic perception research study that was supposed to be conducted. The target was met. We're supposed to also, we committed to have 16 market research reports received. That target was not met because at the midterm review, we decided to plan otherwise, but we are still waiting for DPME because we submitted that particular request so that they can come back to us because during the midterm review, we needed to change that. And on slide 11, we committed to do 1 provincial PYP activity, which was supposed to implement, and that activity happened, the Play Your Part activity.
Can you put your video on?
Okay.
We don't see you.
I've put it on. Can you see me, Chair, now?
No.
I see you, Chair.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see you now.
Thank you. And then now I'm on slide 11. On slide 11, Chairperson, we committed to do the 1 provincial Play Your Part activity that we're supposed to implement. And we did that activity. It was done in the Western Cape. And the next one that we committed to do, we were supposed to do 2 activations which we utilized to promote the constitutional awareness. That target was met and exceeded. Instead of 2, we did 4. We were able to do the freedom of expression activation in the Western Cape still, freedom of expression activation in Mpumalanga, promotion of access to information activation in Limpopo, and also the promotion of access to information activation. We did that in the Northwest. We also committed to do 4 marketing platforms we utilized to promote the constitutional awareness. That target was met and exceeded. Instead of doing 4 marketing platforms, we were able to produce 11. Chair, on the next one, on slide 12, we plan to have 25 planned positive communication content pieces published, because our work should be known and appreciated that most of our work is to communicate. We need to communicate so that people do not forget about the brand. So we are constantly communicating. So for this quarter, we said we needed to have formally 25 planned pieces of communication. We were able to meet the targets. We had 25 pieces of communications that were published and that we can be able, as part of our POE, to be able to produce. And on slide 14, Chairperson, on goal 3, the proactive and coordinated communication of the nation brand value system and value proposition. we committed to have 5% increase in users who engage with the brand as a content on digital platform. We have digital platform, but it is of no use for us to put information there, and South African citizens are not engaging with that. So what we did, Chairperson, there for the 5%, we were able to meet. We set ourselves 5% increase from what we have, but we met and exceeded that particular target because, Chairperson, we were able to have 6.8% growth on all platforms instead of the 5%. We also set ourselves to have 3 implemented media engagement activities for this particular engagement activities to strengthen relations and liaison with the media. And Chairperson, we met that target. We have the WEF media tour. We have the Mining Indaba media engagement and the AU Summit media tour, Chairperson, and committee members. So on slide 15, we set for ourselves, which is supporting strategic goal 4, which is the proactive also and coordinated marketing and nation brand of and the nation brand identity. We set ourselves for this quarter to have 2 international platforms utilized to promote the nation brand identity, image, values, and competitiveness. On this quarter, Chair, the actual performance we had, we met and exceeded. We set ourselves to do 2, but we did 3. One was the CEO's No promoted on the business day. And also we had the Made in SA videos promoted in the continent. And the third one, we did the NASCAR Africa project in the US. On this one, an opportunity presented itself for Brand South Africa to promote the nation brand at the NASCAR Africa project that was deemed strategic enough to support, and we used that opportunity. Hence, we were able to meet and exceed this particular target. Then on the also on the 2 PYP domestic, we plan to do 2 Play Your Part domestic platform utilized to promote the nation brand. The target was met and exceeded. Instead of 2, we had 3. One is the one I mentioned when I started, Chairperson and committee members, is the one we did the welcome and send off activation of Miss Universe. It was led by Brand South Africa. The second one, we promoted the investment AV on ENCA, because by so doing, we want to keep on reminding the investors about what is good for them to invest in South Africa, because they must not forget, as soon as the economy is open, we need to start seeing these investments coming. And also we did the Human Rights Day digital campaign. We did not, because of COVID-19, say we are not going to do that, but we continue to work even under these circumstances. On slide 16, we set ourselves to do 2 nation brand alignment training workshop. We were not able to do these 2 workshops. It's what I said in the beginning because of COVID-19, but plans are underway on how we are going to make sure that we play catch up. And also, we also committed to leverage of one stakeholder-led platform to deliver the nation brand alignment. That workshop could not happen for the same reason as I mentioned above. Also, we agreed to also do 125 new registration on the marketers portal. We monitor that marketers portal to see that we are able to uptake, or we have people that are registering. So for Q4 only, we targeted to have 125 new people that are registering. We were able to, I'm glad to report that for that particular one, we managed, we had, instead of 125, we met the target and exceeded it. We had 215. We had on slide 17, 15 PYP ambassador. PYP is Play Your Part. PYP ambassador engagement achieved in promoting the nation brand. During this time, we used our Play Your Part ambassadors a lot, and they are all over South Africa. They are all over the country. They are assisting us to market the brand. So we had set ourselves to have 15 PYP ambassador engagement. I'm not going to go line by line, but it is there to see that if you look at it, it's across the country, it's across all sectors. We were able, instead of 15, we managed to do 17. And on slide 18, Chairperson, we committed to do 5 GSA activations. What is GSA? GSA is the Global South African Activations, because we do have people that are abroad that we do not want to forget about. So we go there and we want to make sure that they remember South Africa and they promote us, they achieve us in marketing the country, because they are our ambassadors. By them that are there in their countries, they are individuals, they are companies, they are whatever. When they are there, they are able to sell this particular country. So we use them a lot. We had 5 activations that we have set ourselves to do for this quarter, and we're able to meet all 5. One was the activation that was done in Los Angeles in the US. We did one activation in Australia in Perth. We also did another activation in Perth in Australia, and also another activation in Melbourne in Australia. And the last one, we did a GSA virtual activation in Zambia, because we couldn't go to Zambia. So we were able to do that as a virtual activation. So it shows that we are really, really trying, even under these trying circumstances. So on, then we had, on slide 19, 4 coordinated activities implemented in partnership with the private sector stakeholder. This particular target was not met because instead of 4, we did 3. And the one that we did not meet was the planned activity that we were supposed to do with Mango. But we were able to produce the other ones that I mentioned previously, the NBI Business Roundtable, the corporate PYP collaboration with Ubank, and also the collaboration with MTN at West Davos. And also we had, still on slide 19, 4 coordinated activities implemented in partnership with state institutions and stakeholders. We were able to meet that particular target. One, we on the issues of governance, collaboration with GCIS and the Department of Defense. And also we did a back-to-school collaboration with the Free State Department of Basic Education. And we also did a the SONA 2020 activities and the collaboration with the Gauteng provincial government. And on slide 20, as I'm about to close, on slide 20, we had 4 coordinated activities that we have set ourselves to do that were implemented in partnership with the civil society. We did all that. The one was the faith-based collaboration, the Calling the Called platform. This platform, we collaborated with them because we also check the number of people that they are able to reach using this particular platform. So we saw it as a very good platform for us. We collaborated with them. We also did the digital collaboration with the JSI, which is the joint venture, which is the joint COVID-19 awareness. We also did the collaboration with the PFP, which is the COVID-19 awareness, and also the collaboration with NUMSA. And we also did 5 in-market activities implemented. We met this target and we also exceeded it. We did a UK Africa Summit in London, the HCPS 2020 US 7th Rugby International in LA, Martin Luther King Day in US, Commonwealth Trade Expo, Birmingham in the UK, Leaders in Innovation Fellowship in London, and lastly, the FP Magazine Virtual Dialogue in the US. And also we committed to do 2 activities implemented at the strategic platform that will secure speaking platform at other relevant international strategic platform. And that, Chairperson, we were able to meet the target. We did that. It was the West Davos and the mining in Daba. And on the human resource side, Chairperson, we have 57 permanent positions in Brand South Africa. Current workforce, we have got 48 permanent employees. Vacant position 9. Vacancy rate is 15.8%. but we are in the process of recruitment, and we to recruit the 9 vacant posts is in progress at different stages. And because of COVID-19, we were unable to finalize the issue of the appointments. But I'm glad to say that those that were already in the pipeline, we continued to have interviews, and we are about to fill those positions. We are continuing with our training and development as the approved training and development plan of the organization, to make sure that we are continuing to make sure that even when people are at home, we continue to they continue to undergo the training that they have to undergo. And on governance, we are continuing with all our policies. Most of them are under review, but we have all the policies that we need to have. They are all in place. We have a policies on retention of talented and high-performing employees, because we realize that some colleagues, those especially those that we identify as scarce skills, we do not want them to leave us, so we immediately had to put it in place, and that strategy is tabled before our REMCO. And on Brand South Africa equity status, which is slide 24, Brand South Africa, we've got 63% females, and we've got 37% males. And our workforce is 93% Black, 2% white, 2% colored, and 2% Indian. We currently do not have anybody in our workforce living with disability. We had only one colleague that was in this particular category, and she was boarded. And that particular colleague, unfortunately, yesterday we got news that she passed on. May her soul rest in peace. So we do not have, but we are going to make sure that as we proceed to make these appointments, we observe these national imperatives. And I will quickly go to the budget, which is like 27. On the budget, before I present the budget, I want to say upfront that Brand South Africa, like all the others that have presented even before us, but like government, we have no issues on the issue of, we are agreeing actually on the issue of the 30-day payment. Even now during COVID-19, I can safely say that we are observing that. So we do not have invoices that are beyond 30 days. We actually make sure that we pay before that. And even it is a standing agenda item for the board and the ARCO, they want us to report continuously to say we do not contribute to people suffering because we do not pay them. So we are able to pay. On our audit findings, we address the audit findings and internal controls that have been identified that were weak. We have put internal controls in place and we have implemented them. Hence, in the beginning, in my opening statement, I had said we also received a very positive report from internal audit, and that particular report that we received, it shows that they are very happy with our internal controls. And even our meeting that we just had with the AG said that if everything goes according to plan, they do not see us getting an adverse finding. But they have not started yet, but based on the information they requested and we're able to produce. So we are also praying and hoping that we get a good report. And we also have put in place a governance and risk committee that has been set up to monitor the implementation of the internal controls. And this committee, it assists me also as the accounting officer, that if there are issues that are weakening our controls, I'm immediately notified of that, and we immediately act on that. And our budget is as it stands there. On brand marketing for the quarter for Q4, we spent 1.9 M, and the actual spending for the end of Q4 was 98%. we did not reach 100%. There was that particular variance is due to the cancellation of activations in the fourth quarter. As soon as the fourth quarter, when COVID-19 started, there were other activations that I reported on that we couldn't do. So because of that, we were not able to reach the actual 98%, the 100%. And also on stakeholder relations, we had the variance that we had instead of the actual 16M, we had a variance of 2 million, which was 80%. We had 85% variance, and that variance was attributed to the postponement of civil society and constitutional awareness projects in the fourth quarter that we were not able to undertake. And on administration, it was we support 98%, and we had a variance of 4%, and that was 96%. That was 96%, and we've got 4%. And the reason for that is attributed to the issue of vacancies that we have. The vacancies that I said we were still gonna fill, but this might change because also here, this particular budget of administration, it also accounts for pay progression, which was approved by the board and which we are effecting and effected some of them. So this particular 96% might change. The 96%, the final figure there under total, it's attributed to all the above reasons that I have put. But I'm happy to say that in the APP, we were supposed to have at least a 5% variance, but we have 4%. So we were able to achieve this. I must also say that we got a letter from National Treasury, and in that particular letter, Treasury informed us that they will be cutting our budget by 30 million. Chairperson, committee members, our budget is 207 million. It's not a lot compared to others that have got billions or more than that. We only have 207. From that, they are cutting 30 million. So they requested us to write to them to say which program. So moving forward, but as we responded, we were able to respond to them to say this is where we're going to cut. So the work of Brand South Africa will be affected seriously by us cutting the budget of 30 million, but we had to do it because it was a directive. But moving forward, as we come and present here, we will be able to say we are unable to do the following work because of the cut. One of the work that will be affected, we have been given a responsibility to deal with the issue of communication in as far as the AU is concerned. The president has taken the chairmanship, so Brand South Africa is brought on board to be working closely with the presidency to make sure that we are able to execute everything that is communication related. So that will be affected, but also our work as Brand South Africa, they are marketing the country and all our activations. The 30 million that Treasury is taking from us will really cripple us because even the 207 was not really enough, but we had to do with what we have. So cutting the 30 million, I'm just putting it here to say moving forward, it's something that we will be able to report on. I thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, members. Thank you, Deputy Minister. Thank you.
Thank you, Thulisile. The presentation is now open for discussions by honorable members. Can I see hands?
Yes.
Honorable Lesoma? Yes.
Chairperson, me as well, please.
Give as well, sir.
Okay, I've noted all of you. Okay, I've noted those hands. Come in, Honorable Lesoma.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you also to the acting DG. To comment on two areas. One is to appreciate a sense of hope that she has given us in terms of that the final audit report that the AG will present, there will be a great improvement, which is very much encouraging, I must say, Chair. The other that I would like to ask now, it's a question, because I didn't hear her talking to it, but also I think she had a challenge with the network also, because now and then I would miss some of the words that she would say. But to say, since the board is in place now, or the trust is in place, have all the policies been ratified? Those ones which were still pending, waiting for the approval of the trust or the board. For those who can change it. Thank you very much.
Honorable Kibi. Honorable Kibi.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
And then Honorable Tsabekulu, you'll follow Kibi, and Clark after Tsabekulu.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Let me welcome the presentation by Brand South Africa. Honorable Chair, my question is on slide 10. They reported that they were intending to conduct a research in the University of Ghana, a business school, markets to South African universities. And what was the research intended to envisage? My second one is on the issue of the suspended CEO. Is the issue being finalized? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Tsabekulu.
Thank you, Chairperson. Am I audible, Chairperson?
Yes, I can hear you, Nkosi Tsabekulu.
Thank you, Chair. Related to the failure of Brand Estate to achieve targets as been put. All I'm trying to make for honest. So over the past quarters of the financial year, Brand Estate has never achieved 100% of its target. What are the challenges resulting in the failure to achieve target in all 4 quarters? That's my question, Chairperson. Thank
Honorable
you.
Clark.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just in terms of the training, we were told today by the DG that the training couldn't take place because of COVID. And in terms of the stakeholders workshop, that also couldn't take place because of COVID. Now, I'd like to know why. I know she said in some aspects you needed physical training, but surely they can do training on a virtual platform in order to address certain aspects of their training. And a stakeholders workshop can very easily be held on a virtual platform. So that there's so many equipment that's available today for people to continue with their work. I mean, we just see what we're doing in Parliament at the moment. And then is there no way that they will be able to do marketing of Brand SA via virtual platforms? Thank you.
Thank you. Has that concluded all the members who wanted to ask questions before I allow Brand SA to respond? Okay. Brand SA, responses?
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks for the questions. Who is here representing the Chief Marketing Officer will also help me on the to add on the strictly marketing type of questions, but I will try to cover all the questions. Yes, in the questions, the question on the policies that have all the policies been rectified, the response is yes. The questions, the policies, we tried to make sure that we have all policies in place, and all the policies were put before the board, and we are reviewing them as and when it is required. So at this stage, if anyone walked to Brand South Africa to audit our policies, we will not be found wanting, because all the policies that we have, all the policies in place. On the issue of why Ghana, Pumi will add on that, but what I can say is that we do SA Inc., which is SA Incorporated Research on reputation of South Africa on the continent as well. Last year, we hosted other African academics at UNISA, so it was done here, looking at Africa reputation. So because this study is about the reputation, so we are able to go and say we need to know how we are seen, because when that is done, or that research that is done by our research unit, it is important for us to be able to measure, to see how we are viewed in terms of the reputation. How do we rank? So we do it here. Last year we did it here in South Africa at UNISA, and we hosted academics and they came here. So this one we have every year. We will say then we need to go to Ghana. We need to have our presence in all the other African continents. So we are able to do that, but Mpumi can be able to maybe expand on that specific one. On the issue of the suspended CEO, has that matter been finalized? I know that this particular matter, because it's a matter that is dealt by the board and is above my pay grade, and I know that the deputy minister is here, who is leading the delegation. Deputy Minister will, I'm not with that specific one. A failure of South Africa to achieve what are the reasons? Even previously, we were able to come and explain what is it that is stopping us. Brand South Africa by is a marketing agency. So we have brand agents that we work with. We advertise that particular tender of the brand agencies. It took time for that to find. There were a lot of issues because time we when we are asked, am I back?
Yeah, you are back.
Am I back? Okay, thank you, Chair. Brand South Africa, how we work is, unlike we work through agencies, the agencies that we bring to the fore. If today we are asked by the portfolio committee to say there is a need that we have identified, you need to come to the Western Cape or to come to any province, there is work that needs to be done. Under normal circumstances, if the work is of a huge magnitude, that will need a tender if it was another organization. Brand South Africa, through the brand agencies, we are able to undertake that type of work because it's a marketing agency, and we are able to undertake that particular work using the agencies. Because the agencies are there to do that. So it's not something that is wrong. Agencies are there to support us, because if we had to go and start from scratch, RFQs and RFPs, yes, we do that with the other work that we do, but when it comes to marketing, we are expected to use the marketing have agencies. If we do not have agencies, we struggle a lot. We also, on the ones that we were not able to do, for instance, we managed to also play catch up. If we look at slide 11, that is where I am showing that if something we did not do it in Q1 because of the agency program, we were able to then, by the end of the financial year, we were able to do it. If COVID-19 did not happen, we were gonna be able to get 100%, but not running away from the next question that came to say why not the training and stakeholder training did not happen because we were going to use the virtual platform. Yes, we are using the virtual platforms, and that's why moving forward, we will be able to showcase how the virtual platforms have assisted us to achieve our targets. And the issue of marketing, can we do marketing via the virtual platforms? That is exactly what we do. We are doing the webinars. We are having meetings via platforms, and we are getting used to them also to market South Africa. So we get invited by our other stakeholders. We participate, we collaborate, and we make sure that we market South Africa. Like now, we just had a song, an AU song that was driven by Brand South Africa. That AU song was played all over the continent, not only in South Africa, and it had us artists around the continent. We also had a gospel night that was done by Brand South Africa. So we continue to do that. But what disturbed us was the training that was planned for Eastern Cape and the Northern Cape. That specific training that could not happen virtually. It was because both provinces had a challenge with the remote access at the time. Yes, they have improved now because they reported to us, but it was after the reporting period. So both provinces, the Eastern Cape and the Northern Cape, they came back to us that they couldn't undertake we couldn't do that training. So they requested, so the postponement was not from Brand South Africa, request to postpone, as not all the relevant stakeholders will be able to participate. They told us that if we do it, few people will attend and it will not be worth a while. But moving forward now, most people are connected, so the connectivity is no longer an issue. It is something that we will be able to achieve that. I will leave it to Deputy Minister to deal maybe with the issue of the CEO. But maybe before I finish on my side, also to touch on the issue of stakeholder, that also stakeholder-led platform was with the SAT, which is the South African
You are breaking up now.
They had to focus on internal issues with tourism that was badly affected because we don't compete with tourism. But
Chair, that one
you are breaking up.
Yeah.
Honorable Chairperson, the acting CEO, I think, is a network issue. I don't know if I'll be permitted just to close on that point that she's trying to communicate.
Okay, but she's breaking up a lot. We don't hear her now.
I think the point she was trying to articulate, Honorable Chair, is that the stakeholder-led platform workshop was planned with South African tourism specifically, and tourism was quite badly affected and still is with COVID-19 pandemic, and it was going to be just with the South African tourism team. And they requested that we postpone that session because they had to regroup and focus internally. And we understood, and also the annual target for that section, we had actually reached the overall annual target earlier in the year, in the previous quarter. So we understood their reasons, and we accepted to postpone the session. Thank you.
Thank you. No, Mbumidi, is there anything you want to add that she has not covered in the response?
Thank you. CEO wanted me to elaborate on was with regards to the Ghana research. As she mentioned, this was as part of the South African Inc. study, which looks at South Africa's reputation on the continent as well, because we are on and other markets, but Africa is strategically important for us as well. But the point of that session we're doing with that particular academic institution was to get input from academics in Ghana, also on the continent's reputation. And as we have been trying to look at the African brand overall and what role we can play as Brand South Africa in just uplifting the brand Africa holistically. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me thank the
Chairperson.
Okay.
May I put a request, Chair? May I put a request? Because of the challenges of the network, Chairperson, I feel one is missing a lot of responses from the department or from the presenters. May I request that maybe in all questions that have been raised and the responses, can we have them in writing to the Secretariat so that we could maybe to have them afterwards, Chair? My request. Thank you.
And I think your request is reasonable. Your request is reasonable. I think they should do that.
Chair, I'm requesting to respond on the one which was sent to the one that the acting CEO recommended that I speak on.
Yeah, I was about to give you that.
Okay, thank you. After the board was appointed, Chair, they met and took a resolution around the issue of the former CEO. They then wrote to the minister to seek concurrence. What the minister did was that he sought legal advice and also in line with the trust deed, did not concur with the board and their request. And therefore, after that, sometime in June, they then had, I think at the beginning of June 2020, they then had a meeting, the ministry and the board, so that we can find a lasting solution. And the process is at that. What is more important to note is that the term of the previous CEO is left, if I'm correct, 4 or 5 weeks. And what we have resolved on was that any other process would financially strain the institution, and that we must allow the process to flow as it is and not implement what the board had initially requested, which the ministry, not to say the ministry we did not concur with. So the process is at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me thank
Chair, Lesoma.
Yes.
My apology, Chair. I've just been appetized by the CEO's response in terms of using of agencies to market the country. If they can, in writing, probably supply us with the data, which talks to the economic transformation, as it were, to also empower disadvantaged agencies, as it were. One would be very much interested to look at that demographic picture. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Let me thank the Brand SA for their presentation, and immediately invite the Deputy Minister for the opening remarks before the presentation of the DPME.
Thank you, Chair. The presentation is going to be done by our acting DG, Mr. Sterling Takumba. I'm going to request that he takes us through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members, and Honorable Deputy Minister for the opportunity. I don't know if
can you put your video on so that you are seen as you present?
Okay, Chairperson, thank you.
That's it. I can see you now.
All right. Thank you, Chairperson. I'm trying to load the slides as well. I hope that will work. Are the slides visible, Chairperson?
Not yet.
I don't know. Maybe if the team that side can be the one that load the slides. The network is quite bad here.
Okay. Can he be assisted by whoever is supposed to assist?
All right. No, thank you, Honorable Chair. Let me also then continue in the meantime, because it's the same presentation that was circulated. So on DPME, just to remind the honorable members, the mission is to facilitate, influence, and support effective planning, monitoring, and evaluation of government programs aimed at improving service delivery, outcomes, and impact on society. So that vision, mission, and values have been revised for the new APP. In terms of the quarterly performance, on Q4, we achieved 89% of our targets. That means we couldn't achieve 4 out of the 35 targets. Now, going to program 1 on administration, we were able to not achieve only 1 target, which is 10% out of the total. The first target relates to the APP, and the second one on quarterly performance reporting and the risk, anti-corruption and integrity management implementation plan, and all of those targets have been achieved. Now, on the one that was not achieved, it relates to the vacancy rate in the department. So our target is the universal target for the public service is 10%. And we only achieved 11.5%. The main reason there has been exits, 20 posts were filled during the quarter, and 17 service terminations were experienced, which includes the ending of contracts of interns and some resignations and promotions. Generally, the demographics of the department, we have met the targets. We are 59% women and 40% male. Similarly, on the targets that relates to disability and other demographics. Now, the second program is National Planning Coordination, which houses 2 branches. The one is the Independent National Planning Commission, and the second one is on Planning Coordination Services. Now, on the highlights on the performance of the Planning Commission is that they have been able to achieve all their targets in producing the research reports for the quarter that we are reporting, the children's NDP, the pharmaceutical pricing report, and the youth transitions report. There are also quite a lot of reports and position papers that the NPC have just released for dialogue in society, which cover the entire period, including previous years. The National Planning Coordination Services branch is the one that focuses on internal government-wide planning. It achieved all its targets during the reporting period. So this is the same unit where the medium-term strategic framework of government is held. Just to remind the members, the MTSF was released through the SONA in February, but unfortunately we're hit by COVID-19 in March. And so the targets that we have there and the priorities that are there, we have to revise them and align with the current by the reprioritization of budgets across the whole of state.
All right.
I'm hearing the voices of honorable members. Can I proceed?
Yes, you can proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Now, the Sector Monitoring Services branch is the one that's responsible for monitoring the MTSF. It achieved 80% of its targets on Q4. First target that was achieved relates to the assessment of annual performance plans, which we do as a matter of course. So 100% is being done there. Operation Pakistan reports are being generated. The one that was not achieved relates to the work of the Interministerial Committee on Special Presidential Package on mining towns and labor sending areas. So that work is one of those interministerial committees that had to be rationalized and align work to the line function departments. So in this case, the Department of Energy and Mineral Resources has taken over part of this work, and some of it by Human Settlements and others by COGTA. So it was no longer relevant for DPME. But of course, we did produce the status report of that work. On local government, we continue to do our monitoring of the institutional functionality of the local government and all the most through LGMIM. On slide 26, we do produce a report that DPME now is also doing on COVID-19 implementation. The report that you have there is just the pre-disaster, because that's the reporting period, where most of the work was still done by the Ministry of Health and the initial efforts on the part of the whole of government led by the President to establish the National Command Council on coronavirus and the work that it did. Now, fast forward to slide 28, it talks about the emerging lessons that as DPME, based on our analysis, we've observed. Firstly, that when government works together, there is a lot of impact and synergy. Secondly, government possesses the capacity to make decisions in a quick and efficient manner. So we see accelerated service delivery that we've been yearning for a long time, like on water, electricity, and some of the packages that relates to COVID-19. Also, we saw government's ability to respond quickly and efficiently in terms of this COVID-19 to prevent deaths and also to protect livelihoods. Communication has been receiving great attention, both on electronic media as done by GCIS and coordinated by various ministries and through our minister. So the challenge has been the inequality because even though use of ICT technologies like this one have been employed in sectors like higher education and some of the schools, you saw disparities there because of access and connectivity linked to the huge cost of data. Greed and corruption impact negatively on government's efforts to alleviate the plight of the vulnerable and the poor communities. For example, during that time, we saw alleged diversion of food parcels from deserving households to those loyal to certain local leaders and so on. And that problem has been mitigated over time. We are monitoring the processes. Now, moving to the next branch, which is Public Sector Monitoring and Capacity Development branch. This is the same branch that then deals with the monitoring of state institutions, as well as the performance against the 30-day payment of suppliers, which is a crucial indicator for the delivery of, for the performance of SMMEs, even large businesses. So if you don't pay them, they end up also having to cut on certain areas of their work, which exacerbates unemployment in some cases. So we have a slide 33 that provides a snapshot of what's happening during the reporting period. We can see top 5 departments that were not performing that well: water and sanitation, agriculture, forestry and fisheries, Department of Public Works, cooperative governance and social development. And of course, due to the monitoring and the pressure we put, we have seen quite an improvement over time, because those are huge reductions compared to previous periods. Vacancy rates are quite high, and some of the reasons now, for example, the budget cuts, as for example, State SA was showing, they haven't received a budget for some of those, to recruit staff. So some of the factors now are quite beyond control of some of the departments. Status of HOD agreements, we share the status of that because we monitor it. There has been a bit of postponement in that regard due to the COVID-19, and DGs are hard at work in the work of the net joints in support of the NCCC. Then the last branch, which is evaluation, evidence and knowledge systems, it achieved 78% of its target, and the targets that were not achieved relates to the tabling of a report, for example, on evaluation. They were supposed to table a report, but instead they conducted a rapid evaluation. So there is still a report, but it was a report on something else, which was deemed important under the circumstances. And another one which was not achieved, we committed to that should have been approved, but only 6 of those were approved. So the steering committees couldn't meet on the last weeks of March to approve those reports. The rest on data system and so on, I provide the highlights. For example, when we look at the evaluations that we achieved, we link them to priorities of government. Priority 1, then, on economic transformation and job creation, we had evaluation, for example, on cost-benefit analysis of employment creation, the Jobs Fund, evaluation of economic impact of the presidential investment interventions in South African economy, synthesis evaluation of interventions aimed at innovation in the green economy and 4th industrial revolution. Just the highlights, I won't read to all of them. There is cost-benefit analysis of youth SMMEs supported by the National Youth Development Agency, which used to report to us during the year under review, but has been moved now to Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability. And implementation evaluation of not-for-profit organizations, a regulatory system, and so on and so forth. So we have done evaluations against all these priorities. And the new national evaluation plan will suffer greatly from the budget cuts. We literally don't have any operational budget to conduct those evaluations that Cabinet had committed to. We are also having new initiatives on National Research Observatory, where we have a portal that will also house all information linked to the priorities for the benefit also of the Parliament. And one of the challenges then that we will experience if State SA's data, which is usually the premium data that we use for our monitoring on at the outcomes level and impact. For example, the census is the very, very important one for monitoring at the level of wards and even household level. So this portal will suffer from those type of sources. Otherwise, as a product, it's proving very well. We are trying to also make sure that it can be fed with information at the district level, since now implementation is monitored at that level. On the expenditure side of our budget, we we spent 95.6% of our budget Weaknesses on under expenditure relate more to the budget for the acquisition of a new building. So we have delays around that on tenders that are being done through the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. And some of the budget were savings based on the some of the targets relating to employment or the staff, that is resignations or promotions that are, staff that are posts that are still advertised or being filled. Otherwise, going forward, that budget is mainly savings, which we've returned to the National Treasury in this time as part of the budget reprioritization process. Chair, thank you very much. That's the end of our presentation.
Thank you, DPME.
Thank you, Chair.
The presentation is open for discussions by honorable members.
Chair Lesoma.
Honorable
Okay.
Chair, Motsepe.
Okay, Lesoma, Motsepe,
Kibi,
and Gibi.
Yebo.
Yes, okay. Honorable Lesoma in. Honorable Lesoma come in. Have we lost you? Honorable Lesoma, you are muted.
That needs to be looked at. That's one. Moving forward as risk issues. Two is the departments that he said that there's a great improvement, like your water and correctional services and the likes. A few years back, those departments were like in 513 in terms of their performance on supply chain, on corporate governance and all those things. Which areas specifically where there is a great improvement in those departments, if he may, in particular the ones that talk to the financial management and HR related? Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Honorable Kibi come in.
Motsepe.
Yes, I've noted you,
Motsepe.
Honorable Motsepe. You are on the list. Okay. Come in, Honorable Motsepe.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. For DPME, the mandate of the DPME made an emphasis of monitoring the implementation of the National Development Plan by developing robust monitoring system backed by evidence. Is there any monitoring system or tool developed to monitor implementation for the NDP? Number two, how does the department monitor government departments on whether targets as stipulated in the delivery agreement or outcomes are achieved? Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Kibi.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Let me also welcome the presentation. Chair, with regards to the local government management model, assessment of 35 municipalities, what has changed in those municipalities as a result of the tool? What is the role of COCTA in the model? My second one is, with regard to slide 35 on the status of HODs, performance agreements at the national departments, why there is such a high number of DGs in acting positions. What are the risks associated with acting positions in senior management level? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Responses now by the department, because I don't see any other member who wants to ask questions.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm also with colleagues who might wish to add. On the first question on the departments, we are happy to provide a report around the performance of departments. As it relates to the specific issue of on 30-day payment of suppliers. Indeed, we have seen improvements on those departments that are listed there. Let's take, for example, water and sanitation. That department has recently conducted a media presentation on the range of disciplinary cases that have been carried out in terms of consequence management and the interventions that have done on their supply chain management to make sure that things are changing. Similarly, we assist with some of the areas that have been challenged, like on the health sector, Gauteng recently, which also faced a big problem. In some cases, we are still assessing the situation. Otherwise, there is a better there's better performance by departments on this 30-day payment of suppliers. The second one, the NDP, how do we monitor NDP implementation? Yes, that's really the core business of the department. We monitor it at 3 levels. The first level is the one of receiving the type of report that we are presenting here. The quarterly reports are first submitted to DPME and the National Treasury, and then tabled in Parliament. So we use that information to conduct what we call performance dialogues with departments that are not performing and try to link that to the expenditure. So we do that jointly with Treasury to assess why departments are not performing against their plans, the annual performance plans. The second level of monitoring is the one that then we report to Cabinet on a regular basis through the cluster system, monitoring the MTSF itself, where then we monitor the strategic indicators that link to the 7 priorities of government, which is an implementation of the NDP itself. The third level is being on the ground through frontline monitoring. So what we do is both the verification of what departments might be saying on the numbers and other reports that they might be producing against APPs and against their specific targets on the medium-term strategic framework, and also respond to emerging issues on the environment of service delivery environment. This is where also you will see the visibility of our minister and deputy minister being in some of the sites to make sure that we are able to engage stakeholders on what is working and not working and follow through on the commitments that would have been made. Now, going forward in this implementation phase, the district development model is going to be the anchor of how we monitor on the ground. Hence, I presented on that repository where we will then draw from all sorts of information, including the fact that we have made it a requirement on the APP of 2020-21 that departments must start reporting projects about where are they happening, where is delivery happening. So it's geo-referenced information. It's work in progress, which we are hoping that the more we do the verification, which will be led by what is called the district development model champions at the level of political principals across the 3 spheres of government, we will be able to engage stakeholders at that level and be able to know exactly if that work is being done. So our role is to do assessment before even the visits of the principals and also follow through on what is not working. So those are the 3 levels, macro level monitoring, APP monitoring, and as well as frontline monitoring. The third question relates to the monitoring that we do on municipalities through the local government management improvement model. What change has it made? The biggest area that we wanted to leverage on municipal level through this instrument was the capable state, the capacity of the institution of municipality to do basics. So the instrument measures, if they really do proper planning, they're managing their finances, the oversight mechanisms like the municipal council bodies are able to oversight on the, to ensure that there is a reduction on the adverse outcomes, audit outcomes, and those type of things, as well as then the mechanisms of stakeholder engagements. If municipalities they have ward committees that are active, and so we engage the management of the municipality at that level. This is done as the joint work with the national COGTA and the very active involvement of the provincial COGTAs, because they have the mandate of making sure that municipalities are functional. So ours is an intervention to make sure that the institution of municipality works. And we have seen improvement in municipalities that we have visited, but we have seen, unfortunately, not so good news in some of the municipalities. But this is the same information that's able to tell us, for example, in the Northwest, when we did the analysis of the entire state functionality. So this is some of the information that we're able to have as DPME to verify against what would have been produced by the auditors, by finance, and in terms of treasury, and the COGTA itself. So it's very useful for us then to have tools where we are able to do monitoring ourselves. Now, the part of the challenge of the acting capacity of DGs, it is indeed a challenge that as DPME we have been championing that there needs to be filling of those vacant posts quickly. In the recent period, which is not the reporting period, we have seen quite a lot of filling of those posts at national. I'm sure then when we do that report to Parliament of the state of the DG's performance and the filling of vacancies, you will see the major difference that has happened in the recent period. And of course, that's crucial for the capacity of the state, because once you at least have a stability at the level of top management in any organization for that matter, it then creates a degree of certainty and a higher level of accountability and a follow through in terms of the vision and mission that the department. So the long term advocates for. The first layer of that must be stable is the leadership level, both at political and the top management level. So we really agree with the honorable member that it's always important to fill the vacant posts. So I'm acting, so you might have that question. So our minister is hard at work to make sure that is completed soon, and processes are advanced at DPME level to make sure that the vacancy that was created in February is filled within this within this financial year. Thank you.
Let me thank all the presenters, and in particular the
Chairperson. I'm sorry to intervene. You know, the question around the local government management model was one of the issues I wanted to ask. And if I could just elaborate to the answer that we were given, Chairperson, I would really request a report on the monitoring that has been done over local government and what the outcomes were. Because I can assure you that going forward, local government is facing huge problems. And I just speak of Ekurhuleni, where I come from, and I was a councillor for 12 years, so I understand local government really well. Because at this stage, the credit control has dropped from 86% to 67%, and I'm sure you're going to see that in every local authority because of the current economic climate. And I don't know how local government is actually going to survive supplying the services as per their mandate. And I can tell you, I mean, I just see it here in Ekurhuleni. The electricity department is falling apart, Chairperson. And there is so many illegal connections being established all over the place that Ekurhuleni's electricity supply can just not sustain what is expected from them. And therefore, you see riots going on a daily basis. No concrete plans are put in place to deal with this problem. And that's just one aspect. And I tell you, with the economy we're seeing and the credit control rating decline the way it's going to decline, I foresee a very bleak local government situation at the moment. So if we could please have a report of the oversight they've done over local government and the outcomes, it would be very interesting to see what those outcomes were, because obviously that report was done post-COVID, and in terms of the economic decline plus the added COVID issue, I think we're facing very hard times in supplying the kind of services that needs to be supplied.